o'clock?
Shit, I gave it 10. We on this late Thursday night. Blur Cartel. Follow us on Facebook, IG, YouTube, Twitter, Spotify, TikTok, Twitch. It's made Spider Can here, aka Mr. AKA. We're here. We're talking about JDF and his impact on the culture until his tragic death. About about last week due to suicide. So I mean, we're here to just give praise, fondest memories, and just while men's mental health. Why it's important and needs to be talked about. So I'm here. We got two other guests here also. So what's up with y'all?
What up? What up? What up?
What's good, y'all?
They're part of Nerds of Combat. So follow them on Facebook. Follow the Facebook group.
So let's get right into it.
Sure. Everybody knows Jason David Frank, Green Ranger, White Ranger, Gold Ranger, Zeo Ranger. It's like just so prominent in the 90s. Just like
the consummate Ranger.
That every Ranger, the best Sixth Ranger. Whatever.
Oh my God! Oh come on! R.I.P. Jason David Frank.
I'm just throwing out, my opinions out there. It's just, I don't want to hurt your soul. But just like he was probably one of the first characters to be like, oh, as the young mind would just see like, oh, who's that guy? Just like, yo, when the memory still holds to this day when you just jumped in the damn Zord and kicked the Rangers out the Zord.
Wash the crew.
Why do we always have to talk about this? Why? Why do we always?
It's iconic.
It's probably one.
It's not iconic. It's not iconic. It only became a big deal recently when it became a meme online in recent years.
Yeah, you can't tell me it's not one of the most iconic Ranger moments. It's like
it beforehand, it really wasn't. I mean, yeah, outside of it being his debut, that's without argument, obviously, right?
It's one of the best debuts. Do the dagger at Trini, do a Hadouken, fought Jason 1v1. Just like,
yeah, people forget that the Green Ranger and the White Ranger can do that. They forget that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, as in my 12, 11-year-old self, like, what is going on? It's like, yo,
you old.
But yeah, that's it. I'm a little old.
No, I can't say that because I remember being young when I first saw his debut. I didn't think it was like, oh, this mind blowing thing I have to talk about for the next 20 years. I didn't get that.
To be fair, my 6-year-old self wasn't thinking much of anything about talking about for the next 20 years.
I was just like, oh, get him, Rangers! Get him, Rangers!
Yeah, but when you watch as an adult, just like, yeah, he really ran up in that motherfucker and kicked them niggas out. Like, what the?
Oh, Black Air Force.
See, and that's what I'm saying. When I was older and I watched it, which was actually not that long ago, because that's what I did over the shutdown. And when I watched it, that whole, what was that, like 3 episodes? I think it was like 3 or 4 episodes.
Green with envy
to his arc, and like the thing that stood out to me was when he became a kaiju, and no one ever talks about that. Like, that's the part that I'd be stuck on. I'd be like, oh man, I don't remember Rangers going 30 stories up themselves, and here it is. Tommy was one of the first people I saw go up 30 stories.
So much.
And he's also just one character, just like, I know other characters like kind of like die out over the years. Well, no pun, but like
poor phrasing,
right? But Like you look at Urkel throughout the years, it's like okay, you
To
know,
be fair,
Jalil White.
Jalil White wasn't.
Jalil White
He
was
was
no
pissed.
more than just Urkel. He's the
He was
voice of
pissed off because of his typecasting, whereas JDF embraced the role. He genuinely enjoyed it.
right, but he's just timeless. He's a timeless character. He didn't matter what range of color he was. Like Forever Red, timeless episode. It's like another one.
Oh man, I'm not trying to be conflicting, but I have to disagree because as where I'm a huge fan of Tommy,
You are.
well, hear me out. As where I'm a huge fan of Tommy when he was the Turbo Ranger, a lot of people are not, and that's what I mean. Like, so I'm not trying to be conflicting. It's just something that's just not true. You know, a lot of people just
No,
didn't.
it's just an iconic episode. I'm not saying, oh, he was the tits in that one. I'm just like, oh, it's an iconic episode.
No, that's not even what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, when you were saying, like, it didn't matter which Ranger he was. Well, it did matter to a lot of people when he was Turbo Ranger. That's actually a lot of people just like to forget that he was the Turbo Ranger. You know, even when you saw some of the memorial pictures, you know, like people, you know, giving their shout outs and showing, you know, tribute posts. A lot of people went out of their way, even now, to still reject him as the Turbo Ranger.
I'm one of those people.
I seen just green and white. You know,
Yeah, green and white, preferably white. White Ranger was cold as hell.
Yeah, I know some Tommy hardcore fans love him mostly as the Red Zeo. I know others who are more casual usually just bring up the green and white. For I think the majority of people, White Ranger all day long. You can't talk about it a White Ranger. For me, the only time I really messed with Tommy was Black Dino. Really love Tommy as the Black Dino Ranger.
I mean, the Gold Ranger costume was just like, you know,
he was never the Gold Ranger. Stop that. Hush.
Damn.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That was the other dude. That was the Red Ranger.
And that was only briefly. The Gold Ranger was a totally different person altogether.
I was comparing the fits. That's all.
Nah,
white
you weren't.
gold.
Stop it.
Comparing the fits.
No, man, it's tough. It's tough though. You know, his wife. You know, she came out and she spoke. Because I know some people were probably like, man, what is he thinking? So, yeah, his wife. You know, she came out. She spoke. And I also want to address this too before getting into what she said. If you are one of those people contributing to trying to point the finger and create these bad guys in the Jason David Frank situation amongst anyone or his family members, specifically his wife, because of the whole divorce thing they were going through, chill out. Chill out. Yeah, it's not like you will never be as impacted as those people are. This woman gave him 3 or 4 children.
It's truly disgusting. It's truly disgusting.
Yeah,
you're supposed to be fans of this man, and then you're harassing the people he loved the most. No,
right,
no,
right. Like, yeah, like, what do you think he would say to that? You know what I mean? Like,
it's the age of the internet. It's the age of the internet.
Well, not even just that. I mean, it would happen even if people were still writing letters. You know, which people still do, but I'm saying, like, in general, that fans are fans, you know, and fanatics are fanatics, and it's like, you know, here in the age of the internet, I have a platform or multiple platforms to tell you in response to your fanaticism, chill the fuck out.
It's like when PNB Rock passed, and then it's just like, oh, somebody said, oh, the girlfriend dropped the location.
Hey, let's not talk about that. Let's not talk about that because
I want to talk about somebody relevant.
I was just no, we're not going to do that. I'm just saying.
Pending
I was just saying they blamed the girlfriend. They jumped out on her. Why would you share the location and stuff like that?
And there's still questions about that right now. So we don't need to compare.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. Y'all just educated me on something.
I'm just saying that people jump out the window and blame her. She wasn't to blame. They just he was scouted.
We don't know that yet, but we're gonna find out.
I will say this about the situation. I didn't know this part about the girlfriend, but I do know for a fact that young man did that to himself. And the reason I say I know this for a fact because we have footage of him literally talking about anybody can come find him where he at and giving away his own location. So, like, yeah,
and the fact that everyone else who's aware of that location, who's famous and means the money, all of them said the hell, I would never, ever, ever show up there nor wear the type of jewelry or anything at that location. That's
Yeah,
just
and as
suicide.
somebody, and speaking for myself, because I told you when I was in Cali, I ate there. Yeah, bro, that's just not the move to make.
Yeah,
It's just not the move to make.
Not
that's
in that
legit
area per
tempting
se.
fate. Tempting fate.
Um,
But back to JDF.
uh, yeah, because we got right off track. But yeah, man, chill out with the pointing the finger stuff. It's just not necessary. It's not. I mean, look what we just did that just then. Like, it's just not necessary, man. That like in your heart of hearts, just ask yourself, like, how would Jason David Frank feel about my reaction to this? And my behavior toward his
His
loved one,
family.
as Admin Logan said. It just doesn't make any sense to behave
It's
like that.
it's 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 literally batshit crazy because you're gonna go and say that I love this guy so much and he took him from me, but yet you're gonna go and attack the people who meant the most to him. Like if that doesn't say I'm a fucking idiot, I don't know what does.
And hey, hurt people hurt people. That's what.
No, that's true. That's a great sentiment to have. So yeah, his wife finally spoke, and so Jason David Frank spent his last moments with this woman. Um, they were actually trying to work through their separation. So for those of y'all who may have been like me, all you knew was that months ago we found out that Jason David Frank got hit with the divorce
Them pay-
papers, and kind of felt like maybe that was a contributing factor to what happened to him. Well, in his last hours or days, he had actually been on a trip with his wife,
It was with the woman he
trying
loved.
to rekindle their fire, trying to work out through their situation because they did love each other so deeply. As a married man myself, I know how that can be. I don't know how it can be uh, living wise under the kind of pressure that comes with being Jason David Frank or the icon that is Jason David Frank. But I know the marriage part, and the marriage part, um, it's some ups and downs. The true fact is when you're with somebody, and this needs to be said, because we want to talk about a spectrum of things here today, and so like maybe you're someone who's going through complications with the person you've settled down with, and this doesn't necessarily mean that you guys have wedding bands or anything. It's just the person that you've given your time to, maybe for the past 3 to 4 years, 5 years, so on and so forth. when when human beings spend a lot of time together like that, the mystery dies out really fast. It's really rare that human beings care to actually continue to associate in the same partnership behavior after the first 3 years. So you got to keep in mind they raised a lot of children together, you know. So, and that's not even counting like all of us that Jason David Frank raised
Raised.
himself, because that's just the truth. The
Influence
Power Rangers
or
raised a lot of us, and so
Also, admin Negro.
mhm.
Um, there's another thing that happened that also contributed to all of his hardships because his stepdaughter, I believe, passed away from medical complications a year earlier. So
Yeah,
being
yeah,
somebody who
and he
raised
never
that child, that must be a
he
lot.
never he never
I don't remember him speaking on it.
talked about. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at now. He never really talked about that in a heavy multitude, or at least what you would consider a cliche of him dwelling on it would be, and that's but one thing we do know is that the loss of his brother was always heavy for him as well. That's
Understandable.
something Jason David Frank dealt with for years, years, man. And so you losing someone can be heavy, and then again, raising uh, children can be a real challenge. Trying to keep relevant in a celebrity career can be a very um, burdened lifestyle, and trying to keep a marriage alive, even when you have celebrity, can be even more challenging. Again, people fall out of favor with each other on average after those first 3 years. So do with that information what you will, but it's just the truth we like to all avoid.
I mean, it's a lot to handle. A lot of we don't know. We gonna assume what he's going through. We're gonna 100% what he's going through, but just like, but the last thing we should be doing, as if we're saying we're a fan of him, don't point fingers. Just mourn the loss. Just like remember good times. If you met him, just like
Yeah, man,
just
don't make it harder for his wife. I don't
if
understand why you
if
would
you
don't make it harder on his children. Like, why would
if
you?
people if these are true fans, you should be reaching out with love to these people who've lost somebody who they can never get back instead of trying to
right.
demonize them.
Right? They knew this man on his darkest days. They knew him on his brightest days. We only knew it in passing.
Like
Yeah,
the audacity of these asshats to think differently is beyond me.
yeah. Y'all got those fans or so-called fans. You have you got a moment with them. They got a whole lifetime with them, and
Yeah.
then that's just all gone.
Yeah, and it's the holidays too, man. Imagine imagine how heavy that is for them. Because they are people who are probably incredibly used to routines, and those things
100%.
are dead now.
100%. And then you have to think about in this social media age where the daughters or the children, the wife, they see all this outpouring of love, but they're worried to get on their socials because you have this deranged group of few just going crazy, and it like messes up all the actual love that this man is getting because he's like changed lives and shaped lives.
And oh man, and that's not even to mention what chaotic uh issue will come from just the children, you know? And then they all have to spend the rest of their life seeing this man everywhere because his fan base is real.
Oh yeah, he's
When he was
immortalized by the
alive, he was
fan base.
everywhere. Imagine how much more he's going to be everywhere now. I mean, in all truth, um, a lot of people may not see it this way, but the truth is, Jason David Frank was the Michael Jackson of Power Rangers.
Yeah,
There's not going to be a time that they're not going to be able to see this man, in an incredibly often way when it comes to social media. There's always going to be something.
100%. As a fan of the original Red Ranger, and when Jason came in and just like took everything from the homie, I was like, oh, but that dude was the best. It just is what it is. JDF was the best in my opinion. Like he stuck by it. He was the epitome of when people think of Power Rangers. I feel like even like years later, people will still be like, no, JDF. No matter which suit he was in, they're gonna be like, no, Jason David Frank.
No, yeah, for sure. It's
It,
always going to be an argument about who lived up to the Jason David Frank level. Again,
yeah,
again, he was the Michael Jackson of Rangers. You
I'll
know,
go. I'll go with the comic book analogy. He's like the Captain America of like the Rangers. Like he is that Ranger.
that one might be too much. Might be
Mm,
that one
I
might be a
don't.
little.
When it comes to the superhero community, it's Cap.
I would like to stay away from steer away.
Unless you're a mutant. Unless you're a mutant, the X-Men got their own issues and stuff. We'll get into that another time.
But that would have been a better analogy, though. It's Jason David Frank is probably the Wolverine. You know what I mean? More so than the Captain America.
Not
I don't know. I
Wolverine.
don't know if he's as cold as my boy Logan, but I mean,
I I I wish I knew in which context you meant.
and the world will never know.
So, yeah, I mean, uh, oh man, I mean, the core two of this conversation, man, is the suicide is something everybody has to deal with. You know, it to me, I'm not one of those people who think people are cowards when they commit suicide. That's not me, because it takes a really strong person to convince the brain to commit suicide. It takes an incredible amount of willpower. And if you think differently, go try to drown yourself right now. Just go try to drown yourself. It doesn't have to be like you went out of your way to an ocean or something. Let's just run water in your sink, stick your head in there, and don't pull it out. The the amount of urgency your brain will go through to get out of that water is incredible. It's incredibly powerful and overwhelming. So um, I'm just not of the mind of calling suicide. I don't know if the proper term is victims, but people who are suicidal and actually go through with this, I'm just not in the mind of calling them cowards.
I don't want to
Um,
call them cowards. I would say that they're hurt, lost souls. They were trying to look for something and find something that they couldn't find here. And unfortunately, that was the last bastion of hope that they found available to them.
and I'll give the other guys more than enough space to say something. But the last thing I'll say too is my initial statement is that it affects everybody. Is when a person commits suicide, there are people they leave behind who did actually care, or people who probably didn't realize they had a poor way of showing how much they cared, and the damage that's going to do to somebody is enormous. When people are invested in you, they're invested in you, and even when you don't think that's the case, uh, suicide will reveal that, or death and a loss in general will reveal that. Um, so if there's anybody out there who's hearing this or will hear this at some point, consider it's not just you hurt, or it's not just your pain you're trying to relieve. You're most likely going to give that baggage to someone else.
Yeah, survivor's guilt, the whole nine. That stuff. I could have done this. I could have done that. Should could have would have. I should have called him more. Just like should check up on him more. Just like it's a lot of questions, doubt,
This is gonna
guilt.
sound this is gonna sound hella cliche, but what it comes down to is reach out to somebody. Like reach out, even if you like. A lot of people think they don't have anyone that will sit there and listen. You'd be surprised how many people would actually sit down and listen. Like times can be hard, and times are hard. But before taking that ultimate step, you'd be surprised how many people would be like, I didn't know that you were going through this. I wish you talked to me before about this. And even got to this step.
All factual information.
Because like what Edmund Negro Lantern said, it's not just you that this is gonna affect. It's going to affect friends and family and people who you probably didn't even know that you may have influenced or impacted in life. Because they just didn't have a chance to tell you. It's just a very depressing thing, nonetheless. It's just very, very depressing how all of this is played out. Because you would have, when I saw the news, I thought this was I was hoping that this was gonna be another like stupid, pointless internet hoax. Because when you would see Jason, David Frank, and all of these Comic Cons and meetups, the amount of energy and love he had for his fans, and then even when you would see snippets of him with his family, the amount of energy that he had. So it just shows that you never know who's suffering on the inside. You never know. Like I would have never thought in a million years that this would have been something that would have happened. This would have been the end of his story.
It's very surprising too because you're talking about someone with so much celebrity, and the average person often thinks, if I had more money, I'd be happier. If I was more famous, I'd be happier. And it's like, look at Jason David Frank, man. You don't. It don't get much bigger than him in most cases. You could be Leonardo DiCaprio. Leonardo DiCaprio never beat Jason David Frank. That's just a fact. Leonardo DiCaprio has never touched as many people
Not
as
at all.
Jason David Frank has.
No, Jason David Frank shaped a whole generation into just getting into martial arts.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
You're talking
Power
about a
Rangers as a
human
whole.
being who was the equivalent of the animated character Goku.
Yeah,
You often hear that a lot. Hey, man, one of the reasons I got into martial arts was because of the Power Rangers, the Green Ranger, this. Or one of the reasons I got into martial arts is because of Dragon Ball. This. It's like that. Leonardo DiCaprio's fame will never equal to that.
like
Yeah.
yo, shout out to him for making Titanic. Whatever, don't care.
Damn.
You know,
But not even just martial arts, just like cosplaying, nerd fandom in general, just like
No, that's a great point you make because I would say where I wholeheartedly agree with you is that you could argue that Jason David Frank is one of the reasons right now that current pop culture has accepted uh, geekdom and nerddom the way that it has over the past 2 decades. Easily, because that was a grown man who consistently kept that character going in
right.
day to day life.
with all the tattoos and everything.
Right, who was out there in that octagon.
Mm-hmm.
Like, come on, made his own martial arts style. Like, come on, man.
Had a Guinness World Record for a little bit.
You just can't. You just can't. I mean, come on, man. You just can't. You just can't compete with that kind of star power. And then again, to bring it full circle, look how unhappy he actually was on the inside. Even even if maybe you wanted to argue it was a moment of weakness, that is an incredible reaction to a moment of weakness.
Goes back to what you were saying earlier about how he was with his wife trying to work it out.
Yeah, she said
And
she went for snacks. For
yeah,
those of you who don't know, she said that we were working through it, and she tried to give him time to sober up before, because they were out having a vacation moment to themselves to try to work through things, and she was trying to give him a moment to sober up before going to bed, and she went down, I guess, to the hotel lobby to try to get snacks and stuff for them. So she got back, she was knocking on the door, he wouldn't let her in, and
that's when she called for the wellness check.
hmm she just assumed he was passed out.
so again, just like that's when it should have could have would have just said maybe if I try harder or maybe if I just like more concerned or just like just it's a lot of stuff and then it's just like so-called fans hit her with all this. So it's like, oh, you did this, you did that. It's just like off hearsay, not even no facts, just hearsay. Just like
A fun fact too, you'll probably never get a better depiction of blood shot.
Oh, I was waiting to bring that up.
Yeah, you'll probably never get a better depiction of
Because
the
that shit's all over Vin Diesel's crap.
yeah yeah of the Valiant comic
Va-
character known as Bloodshot. You'll probably never get
yeah,
another.
Valiant versus Ninjak versus the Valiant Universe. Low, like it wasn't low budget, but it wasn't super high budget. But his depiction of Bloodshot was so fucking spot on. It was stupid.
was it a Bat in the Sun project or no?
It was, and
I believe
even though
so.
Bat in the
Okay.
Sun does really biased, shoddy work, I stand by that. I never want to be sponsored by that young man who loves to dress up as a Joker. F him. I meant that. You're probably the reason. Nope, not even worth saying, Joey.
He's
So
about to. He's about to.
I was about to. So that was actually probably one of his best projects I've seen from him. outside of like some of the matchups that they've done on Bad in the Sun. But that project that he did for Ninjak was incredible, or for Valiant Comics in general. It was incredible. It was very good. But you know, uh, when Admin Logan said, like when you get the actual like silver screen version of that character, didn't hold a candle to what we saw Jason David Frank do, and we didn't even get a lot of that. But Jason David Frank just like the moment you see both characters visually, you're like Jason David Frank. When you see the action, you're like Jason David Frank. It's just like
Yep.
it's just not even close, you know.
No comparison.
I mean, truth be told, at one point, I remember thinking I would like to see Jason David Frank as Wolverine. That's a true story. I really believed Jason David Frank would have made a really good Wolverine.
I love the dude, but I don't know all about that now.
Yeah, it was like, you know how obviously we saw Tommy go from like pretty boy faced it to like older man, and when he started getting this very old man Logan kind of look to me, I was like, yeah, I can see Jason David Frank playing Wolverine. I can see it.
Did they ever finish that White Dragon project that they was trying to do, or
I believe they were
it was
looking
in
for
post.
more support. I believe
I thought it was in
believe
post.
they did wrap up, because if you look at some of the promotions that Jason David Frank did, obviously before the big day, he was promoting the movie.
Yeah, I thought it was done, and they were just like finishing up, editing and putting everything together. Because I feel like that's probably going to be the last thing we're going to get. Because I'm not aware of him working on any other projects. So I'm just hoping that like I'm just hoping that it does him justice. Really, really hoping, praying that it does him justice, because he was super amped about this project. Super amped about this project. And the little bit that I saw, I was like, yo, let's go. Let's go. I can't wait to watch this. And I would have never in a million years guessed this would have been the last thing I would see him in. I never would have thought that he wouldn't have made 50. That he passed away when he was 49. I just would have never ever expected that. Like, the man was so physically gifted, still built like a tank. I just would have never guessed that this is the way the story would have ended. For a lot of people's first superhero. Let's call it what it is. Like, a lot of people, he was like, the Power Rangers were their first superhero, and the Green Ranger was their first superhero. That was your first like arc where you had a bad guy join up with the good guys after finding out the folly of his ways. That's the first time like a lot of kids ever saw that. That wasn't a thing back in like 1992 for like
Yeah,
6-year-olds.
you know what? You make a really good point, because Jason David Frank character, the Green Ranger character, actually probably has one of the greatest of all time hero redemption arcs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't that wasn't something that we saw back in the day when this first came out, because I was born in 87. So I was in like kindergarten when Power Rangers came out. And I remember the best friend I still have to this day. We met because we had Power Ranger lunch boxes, and we were inseparable since then. Even when JDF passed away, he hit me up later on that evening and was like, "Wow, bro, it's crazy. It's crazy. Like, we used to fuck with that so heavy when we were younger. Like, shit, that's how we connected." And I was like, "Yeah, if it wasn't for these group of people, who knows if we would be who we are right now with this friendship."
yeah, I think that was the initial response where everybody woke up that morning. It's like, this is crazy.
Yeah, it's just absurd. It was like this hit me in the chest, like when I found out Kobe passed away. Hit me in the chest like that, because it was like, nah, this can't be real. Don't let this be real.
You know how you know where we are right now in the conversation, how powerful and iconic Jason David Frank's presence is. When the rumors first started spreading, it immediately got shut down, because people were like, "Hey, let's not play about this."
Exactly.
We're talking about the internet here and the ridiculousness of the internet. Like, when the rumors for the JDF thing happened, even the person who started it was like, "I'm gonna take this down because we don't actually know, and I'm gonna wait until there's a news report on this." That's what he said.
Yeah,
That's how powerful JDF's presence is.
even people that was confirming it was true, they're like, no, if TMZ ain't saying it, like the denial was there. Like everybody was just so in that first step was denial. There was everything was just denial. Just like I don't want to believe it. I don't want to believe this. Like even beforehand, the week before when it was or 2 weeks before Kevin Conroy, they just like they immediately just accepted. All right, yeah, I still can't believe it, but yeah, it's reasonable because he was old and I get all that, but no, not the Green Ranger. No, it's just
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. When Kevin Conroy passed, it wasn't a big deal to me. Honestly, it was. It was. I'm not gonna blow it off like it wasn't like I wasn't taken back. I was. I was like, oh, that's kind of messed up, man. And it's like that for me is the voice of Batman in animation. You know what I mean? Or even
right.
in video
He's
games,
the
I
voice
love
of
when he come
Batman.
back to revoice.
Mm.
Yeah, right. It's
When
the
I
voice of
read
Batman.
comic books, that's the voice I hear.
Yeah, for me, it's
Yeah, for everything. Justice League, DC animated movies, just
Yeah,
like
Justice League,
everything.
Justice League Unlimited, all the DC animated movies, the Rockstar Batman video games. He's Batman.
yeah, for
Whenever
me,
there's a new Batman
it's him
person,
and it's him and Michael Keaton. I often hear it when I read a comic. That's interesting. You point that out. When I read a comic, I often either hear his voice or Michael Keaton's.
But just the deniability for the Green Ranger throughout the day, just like even into through even it's like 6 o'clock at night, and it's like, oh, it's not true. Craziness.
that shit hurt my soul. I can't front. That shit hurt. I ain't know is one of the few celebrities of people like individuals never met in my life, never spoken to, nothing. But he just shaped so much of the way that my life was as a child. And I've always like, and then the way everything I saw about him, I was like, yo, there's nothing. How can you not respect this individual? And then to find out that he's gone in this way it was just so heartbroken. It was so heartbreaking.
So let's move into do you guys have any opinions on what you think we should all be doing? Your personal ideologies or rhetorics about trying to be there for the people closest to us, in the hopes to help either keep them going one more day or in general, obviously the thing I'm trying to be very careful about touching on is keep them from committing suicide, or preventing suicide.
I mean, it's pretty touchy. I mean, everybody, uh, I don't know. Well, people have their own things they're going through. People have their own families. They have to keep close knit with them and keep pushing forward and keep supporting, whether it be emotionally, spiritually, financially, all that stuff. If it does take a couple seconds to call somebody and just like, hey, you okay? You good? Just checking on you. It does take a couple seconds to do that. So I mean, if you can take the time out your day to do that, to even if you're just close friends.
But that's if you know that they're necessarily going through
No,
something.
I'm just saying in general because anything can happen in life. So it's just like I'm just going on a broad spectrum right here before we get deep down to just like people that are um going through something so turmoil that they want to cause harm to themselves. It's like just take the first steps and just like reach out to your closest friends. It's like make sure they go, or just somebody you haven't talked to in a while. You don't have to just don't be on a stubborn mindset. Just like, oh, I haven't talked to this person. They don't want to talk to me. Or I'll wait for them to call me because reasons. Because a lot of people are on that mindset. If you don't call me, I'm not gonna call you.
Mm, true, true.
So you can just bypass that and take a second to be like, even a text is a text them. They'll text you
I
back.
mean,
You call
I
them
mean,
after that.
texting in this day and age is totally acceptable. Most
Right.
people
Just
prefer a text.
yeah, people prefer text. Is not interrupting them. They
Yeah,
get back when they get back.
most of the time, people will be freaked out when somebody's getting a call from somebody they haven't spoken to in a while. It's like, oh my god, is everything okay? And they're like, oh no,
Right.
I just want to call and check in and make sure you're good. And they're like, oh god, Jesus, I thought something was
I
going
thought,
on.
yeah, I thought something happened.
Like I just think it's always good to let people know that you're available. It's like, yeah, I may be busy with A, B, C, X, Y, and Z, but to let people know that, yo, you ever need to talk, just hit me up. Like I'll make time. If I can't talk to you at that second, I'll make sure to talk to you 10 minutes from now. Like I feel like that's a powerful thing though, just to let people know that you're available to them. You're there for them. It's like, no, talk to me. I'm not gonna judge you. I just want to make sure that you're okay. And if you telling me and just like spouting out everything that's going on in your life, you just want me to sit there and listen. Sometimes that's all people need, and just let them know that you're available for that.
I I mean, my background. I you know, uh, studied human sciences. And one thing I've always had a conflict with is the subject of suicide. I actually, in all honesty, don't know a good reason to talk people out of suicide. Um, but that's me. Me. I actually don't know. And when I look at the math on the situation, it's it's can you really make an argument to keep moving forward in this particular life? Can you actually make an argument that says that there is no restart button when you kaput this vessel? You know, can you really make an argument that you're going to help this person in a meaningful way because they're hurting right now? Now, I am not of the mind that, as you just said, sometimes for some people, a talk can go a long way, but that's not always the case for everyone, right? So I'm definitely of the mind that giving it a try or giving it a shot is is um is extremely beneficial, because had you not done it, there's no telling if you could have helped at all. And when you do try, at least you know you tried. At least they know you tried before it's all said and done. Whatever the situation resolves itself, however the situation resolves itself.
I mean, that's all we can do as people is just to try. Like trying may not result in what you want the results to be, but I'd rather to have tried and failed to have been like, yeah, I just didn't even attempt this, and the outcome was still the same. Because there's always going to be that what if.
I think you put it perfectly, because that's the point. It's like, well, I don't want to live with that what if, and I don't want them to live with the what if, you know, because sometimes, attempts to do suicide leave a person, morbidly injured for the rest of their
Maimed.
life. And it's like,
They're
now you have
maimed.
to sit around with that. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I just, to me, it's like, it's better that you took the effort to try as opposed to not taking it at all. But nonetheless, I don't really see too many legitimate arguments in those cases.
Yeah, I can't necessarily go down that part with you. Where it's like I'm gonna just like I can't figure out a reason to talk a person out of it unless they are like the scum of the earth. And I'm like, nah, do us all a favor and just handle your business. But since we're not talking about those type of situations, like I just feel like family, friends, even a stranger on the street. Like we've all seen those videos where somebody's gonna jump off a bridge, and a stranger will come up to that person, and they'll sit there and they'll just talk to that person. And they'll be like, "Oh, hold on, no, no, no." It's like, I'm gonna jump." And it's like, "No, no, no, I don't like. I just want. Can we just talk for a little bit?" And they'll just sit there and they'll have a dialogue for like an hour, 45 minutes, 2 hours, and then after that talk is over, the stuff. This anecdotal evidence, the stuff that I've seen, the person doesn't do it. They don't jump off the bridge. And they've come out and was like, "Yo, thank you for that act of kindness to talk to me. It really meant everything." At that moment in time, I thought all was for naught, and you showed me that no, 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 no. There's people here, and that person didn't even know you. Like
Hey, you never know what a difference you make in a person's life.
exactly, exactly. It like
Well, I'm a
we're
firm believer, and I know that's not what this subject is about, but I'm a firm believer in everything you just said. I think again you perfectly worded it. Um, because I often tell people, and you've heard me say this in personal conversations, not
Mhm.
everybody is special. And sometimes your only purpose in life is to meet a stranger at a bus stop, say something to them to change the direction in their life for them to go be special. You may have gained all type of heartache over your life, live to be 40, and then one day you meet that stranger, you say something from the wisdom you've gained, and that changes the entire trajectory of that young 20-year-old or maybe that 30-year-old, whatever the case may be. I do believe that that's how life actually works.
Yeah, I mean, life's random, life's hard, life's cold. Like we don't. We're in a wacky place. This thing called Earth, this thing called life. And then we're still trying to figure out that scholars haven't figured out over millennia. But the thing is that I guess it actually may just come down to like something as simple as this. Is it that hard to be a decent person to your fellow man, especially if you see and you know that your fellow man is going through something? Is it really that hard? Because I kind of feel like we get away from that at times as a society because we're so caught up in, well, I got to get this done, I got to do this, I got to make sure this is situated, I got to do, and then you just do like, am I a good person? Was I a good person to this individual? Because we saw JDF. He gave everything to everyone, people he never met and people he'd never meet again. And the outpouring of love that I saw from those people who had like paragraphs and pictures of how important, how much he changed their lives. Like that was just a man being kind to strangers, and we saw the change that he did in the world. Like if anything we could take from this, we should take that. If anything we could take from this horrendous event that's happened, we should take that away. There was a man who was so hurt, but he gave everything to everyone he's met and was always kind and generous and uplifted them all. And all those people remember it. All those people's lives were changed, and they all have a story about it.
Yeah, positive one at that.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
All I really got from it is that I'll never get to see Jason beat up another Ranger again. I couldn't even say that bullshit with a straight face.
In our hearts, he's kicking ass all the time.
I just needed to cut the tension.
It's like another thing that's is it's uncomfortable to talk about is like the stigma of men talking about their feelings. Because did he feel that he had nobody to talk to? Because he needed to project this strong like persona where it's like, no, I'm I'm that guy. So therefore he couldn't necessarily get the treatment that he probably needed, perhaps. He tried to do it himself, which evidently didn't work.
You know what I'm really worried about? I'm worried that when it's all said and done, Jason David Frank's story will be a lot more sinister than we believe it is now. And I'm really
I
worried
hope
about
that's
that.
not the case. I hope to God that's not the case. That's one of those things where it's like, well, you know what? Just throw everything in the goddamn trash now.
Yeah, it's like don't tell me. If that ends up being the case, just don't tell me. You know, I don't. I'm really worried that that's how things will turn around. It's like all this love right now, even what we're expressing, and then it'll just end up as, oh, well, we found out Jason David Frank had actually plotted to do this when, she walked out the room to hurt her or make her feel guilty about trying to leave him. And it's like, I'm so worried about all of that coming up later. I really just want to remember this one celebrity, this one human being, as someone who didn't do something nuts.
Like everyone has skeletons in the closet, like shit that they put away. But I'm just hoping that this man's like he just doesn't have anything to that level. I'm hoping that the worst thing that he did was the issues that him and his wife had that should have never been public to begin with because that's between them and their family. I'm hoping that's it. And that's all of it. That's all of
And
it.
dear God, don't let it be that they were going to separate because Jason David Frank went out and had a mulatto baby. Please, please do not let that be the case.
I'm not touching that. I'm not touching
Yeah,
that.
me
I'm
either.
not touching that.
You don't have to. You don't have to.
Any closing statements?
My man said we are done for the evening.
Any everlasting memories?
I'll start. Um, Jason David Frank, the Power Rangers as a whole, they got me into martial arts, which is still near and dear to my heart. They like, unbeknownst to me, that was like really the first superhero team I really rocked with. Um, made like gave me my first real friend, best friend. That we're still great to this day. And if anybody is suffering in silence, if anyone feels like I can't do anything, it's just black skies, gray clouds. There's no future for me. Please talk to somebody. Talk to anybody. There's gonna be more people that are gonna be hurt from you not being here on this plane with us than you possibly can imagine at that moment during your trials and tribulations. Please get help. It doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you're not masculine. It doesn't mean anything negative. It just means that, you know what, I need help right now. If anyone broke their leg, they would be like, "Can I get help?" Nobody's gonna call you a bitch or soft because you broke your leg and you need help. This should be nothing different. And it's time for us as a society to make it known that this is nothing different.
Yeah, I mean, you can't just put some tussin on it. Call it a day. Rub some dirt on it.
You can't put no Tussin or Vicks on it. This ain't back in the day.
Uh,
My closing statement is Jason David Frank was an American icon. The impact that he just had on the youth, period. And um, I want the man to be remembered for that specifically. That this is a person who impacted generations, and for a positive reason. And to all you out there who may be like going through something, uh, don't do suicide. Go have a mulatto baby.
Jesus, he couldn't help himself.
On that
Uh,
note, I will say this one last thing. I hope that JDF finds the peace that he couldn't find here, because as somebody who has lost close people as well, I know losing a brother, because he never really got over that, 'cause I don't think anyone really can. I hope that he has some peace now. Maybe he's with him. I don't know how the afterlife works. Never been there, obviously. But I just hope that he has some semblance of peace wherever he's at right now, wherever his soul may be.
absolutely. I guess for me, it's just growing up in the 90s to 2000, 2010, 2022, as of now, certain things become throwbacks, like Throwback Thursday, something like that. And you look some stuff from like 2010 as a throwback, but I remember you as this character. I remember you as this character. JDF was there through pretty much the whole thing of my life. Is just like and still relevant, current. Well, you know, still relevant through those times. It's just being like, all right, he was Green Ranger, all these Rangers. It's just like he didn't never went stale or just like, oh, whatever happened to that guy? Just like he was always there, always just positive, always just like a constant thing. Just like as long as Power Ranger goes, he goes. And just like I won't. I'll end it on a positive note. I think one of the one of the memories I have for JDF was him challenging CM Punk to an actual fight, and I thought that was like the wildest thing in the world. Just like, yo, we about to get the Green Ranger versus
Oh,
CM
that was pure comedy. That was pure comedy at that moment in time.
and this is where Punk was at like the height of his like wrestling career. So just like and he took a picture with his fiance, and it's just like a whole bunch of memes came out of it. It's just it was one of the most hilarious things
Oh,
I've
question
seen.
for you. Did CM Punk ever did he say anything on the passing of JDF?
I've not seen anything. I'm pretty
You
sure
know
he's
what?
just
That's a great question. Did CM Punk or did Sean Claude Van Damme say anything?
I no clue on John Claude, but I think Punk's been pretty much radio silent since the whole AEW fiasco. So I have no clue. I'm not on Twitter like that, so
Touche. It's not worth it.
I don't know. But and on a bright note, that was probably one of the highlights of being in the 2011, 2012
Oh, and
era.
let me say this to let me say this again to reiterate what Admin Negro Lantern said. For the fourth, fifth, sixth time that has been said, for the quote unquote fans that think that they are truly fans of JDF and they are harassing his family, shut the fuck up. Respectfully. It's just not what
Can't say
anyone
it
should
any
be
better
doing.
than that.
It's not what anyone should be doing. You are truly not a fan of anyone if you're going to badger and harass his family. This is not that type of story. Leave them alone. Let them mourn the loss of a loved one, somebody that you don't know like they do intimately. Leave them the fuck alone. It's just that simple. It's just that simple.
Have an Negro Lantern. Any last words?
No man, no man. I think suicide is whack. I think if you can avoid it, dear God, let somebody talk you out of it. But like I said before, uh, seek assistance, help, or go out and have mulatto babies.
Oh my goodness. Anyways,
Good God.
there's a combat. Follow them on Facebook.
I'm
Everywhere.
sorry. Do y'all think it's better to commit suicide than have mulatto
No,
children?
we're
Come
talking
Like
on.
about
we don't know. Nope.
we're talking about the mulatto babies. Shout out to Austin Eckler. Anyways, Blur Cartel files on Facebook, IG, YouTube, Twitter, Spotify, TikTok, Twitch. I did not post a damn roundtable episode on Spotify on that. I will do that tomorrow. But you know, we just remembering JDF, how they impact us all, and excusing the mulatto babies. Nothing wrong with mulatto babies. It's okay. But
Mulatto babies are beautiful.
Appreciate you guys for joining the podcast. Next time we'll try to keep it to versus matches.
We'll keep it more lively next time. It was just a very important event that happened. Unfortunately, it had to do with the passing of somebody who touched so many people's lives, especially people specifically in our generations. But next, hopefully, I'm knocking on wood. Hopefully, there ain't nothing else going to come up within a week, so we can just come back to the fun.
yes, sir. We'll be back with some more verses, more related content. But thanks for having us. We out of here. Enjoy
Peace.
yourselves.